Okay, I think we can start it. If people want to join later on, we will happily accept them. So, welcome everybody. My name is Dimitris, and together with my colleague George, we would like to thank you very much for your participation today. Before starting with the actual content of today's workshop, I would like to share with you some basic information about the organization of this meeting. So let's see some practicalities to be sure that we are all on the same page. First of all, I would like to inform you that this meeting is being recorded, so we can have the material we need to further elaborate on the work we are doing in the project. But before moving to the other bullets, you can see in the right of this slide that we have a QR code and a link for Mentimeter. This is an application we are going to use for from session 3 and onwards in order to ask for your opinion on some questions that we have already prepared. You can open it now if you want, but we will also give the details when we start. Both the QR code and the link with the code goes to the same page, so whatever you want, it's fine. So, okay, we have a Q&A. Stay in the previous slide, please, George. We have a Q&A available for your questions. Due to the limited time we have, because we try to do it as efficient as possible, and we have an impressive participation today, we will answer all the questions after the meeting ends. So you can feel free to write whatever question or clarification you have, but we will do our best to answer after the meeting, because we want to keep it just an hour and a half. Together with the answers, we will also share with you a questionnaire with some extra questions. We would like to see your point of view, and there you will have some extra space and time in order to express your opinion in a better state. So let's go to the next slide to see today's agenda, and then we can move to the actual sessions. So the first one is the intro of the AgriDataSpace project, which is the reason we're here. It will be brief, just to give you an idea of what the project is aiming to do. Then we will continue presenting you what we have already done in creating the value network for the agricultural data space. The third session is about the common European agricultural data space concept. We would like to share some definitions, some terms, some insights that we have based on what is already presented by the Commission and by the Data Space Support Center. We will move on by explaining the business model radar, which is a tool that we are using for designing business models. Then the business model perspective for the common European agricultural space, and we will close with some characteristics that we would like to share with you for the common European agricultural space. In all these sessions, from the second and onwards, we will have some questions in order to receive your feedback. So let's move. Okay, so again, thank you very much for your participation. We will start now, and I would like to give the floor to George, my colleague George, to give an overview of the AgriDataSpace project, and then we can continue with the other sessions.
Thank you, Dimitris. Hello, everybody. My name is George Vrouchis. I'm a project manager at Foodscale Hub, and I'm holding a master's degree in agricultural economics. Together in this first session, we're going to dive into the introduction of the AgriDataSpace project. First of all, let's start by addressing the fundamental question: how was the AgriDataSpace project conceived? Well, it all began with recognition of the urgent need to elevate the agricultural sector to meet the high standards outlined in the EU Green Deal's Farm to Fork strategy. We understood that to achieve this embracing digitalization was not just important, but imperative. AgriDataSpace is a CSA project funded by the European Union, and it has an 18-month life cycle, and we're currently in the midst of this exciting journey. More specifically, the project kicked off in October 2022 and is set to conclude in March 2024. AgriDataSpace project brings 15 partners from 10 different countries, each contributing their unique expertise and perspective, aiming to achieve project's main goal to pave the way for the European data space for agriculture. More specifically, AgriDataSpace is having 7 objectives. Now already we have mapped the current landscape of the data spaces. We're in the process of analyzing and assessing the current governance and business models. Also, we're exploring the evolving legislative framework, as well as we're trying to build a conceptual reference architecture for a common data space. All of that are going to help us to develop a roadmap in the end of the project and compiles all requirements and needed actions into a pathway towards implementation of the European data space for agriculture. And for all of this, in order to be achieved, we need the engagement of all the stakeholders in all the actions that the project is applying in order to evaluate and then validate our results. And with this way, we're aiming to achieve the broad consensus. Now, regarding the methodology. The methodology utilized within the AgriDataSpace project follows from the mapping of the data sharing initiatives to designing a roadmap approach built upon data sharing and building blocks towards the development of the roadmap for the creation of the Common European Agricultural Data Space. This Common European Agricultural Data Space will constitute a tool for change for the agricultural sector. More specifically, the AgriDataSpace also integrates a consultation process which will identify the experiences of stakeholders and will provide, all the stakeholders are calling to provide feedback and recommendations on projects' progress and results. Now I'll give the floor to my colleague Dimitris. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, George. Okay, now we will dive in a bit to more details about what we're going to do today. And the first session is called From the Value Creation Network to the Data Ecosystem. So we want to present to you what we've done already to identify the actors, the roles and stakes in data sharing initiatives across Europe. And we will close this session with just 2 questions to map our audience today. So in order to identify all the actors of the value network and see their correlation to the 3 main value streams so far. So you see here we have the value streams that are data, money, and services. Of course, there are some others that can be included in those. We started in the project by conducting a survey, and we managed to receive feedback from 64 data sharing initiatives. When we say data sharing initiatives, we mean whatever initiative is involved on data sharing. So everything from a data marketplace to a data platform, whatever is using data in their business model. So except these 64 DSIs that we mapped and questioned to see a lot of things, we proceeded in a thorough analysis on 15 of those in order to be sure that we can understand all the aspects of the business, all the business aspects of those DSIs. So these 15 initiatives were very thoroughly analyzed in terms of business. Then we had a feedback round with stakeholders, an external feedback round, in order to see the initial perspective of what is now in the data ecosystem. And we had a lot of internal workshop inside the project in order to identify if we are moving in the correct way. So you can see here that there are 4 main categories of factors: is the customers, the partners, the suppliers, and the operator. We'll give some examples later on what is about. So let's move to the next one. Before mapping the actors of the value chain, we wanted to make a clustering of all the stakeholders that are relevant to data sharing. So we came up with 8 big categories. And you can see here, there are farmer and agriculture producers, technology and data providers, data intermediaries and service providers, government and regulatory bodies, financial and insurance services, multi-actor collaborations, research and academic institutions, and business and industry stakeholders. So we tried to see with all the stakeholders that we we saw that are already engaged in different data sharing initiatives, if we can create some bigger categories that we can include everybody in. In the next one, you will see the work we did in putting these categories in the four main actor categories of the value creation network. So the customers, partners, suppliers, and operator. Customers are the end user or beneficiaries of the actual value created through a data space. So based on our analysis, we saw that usually farmers or business and industry stakeholders are those that are the main customers of the data space. Partners refer to entities or organizations that collaborate and participate in the value chain network to support the data space, like technology data providers or other service providers like financial insurance, of course, government and regulatory bodies. You can see that some of the groups are included in more than one categories. The next one is suppliers. We're talking about entities or organizations that contribute to the data and service provided within the data space. This includes farmers and agriculture producers that may be customers, but maybe just suppliers, the DSIs or technology and data providers. And the part that we're not sure yet is who is the actual operator of the data space. So who is playing the crucial role in facilitating and managing the value creation process within a data space. This can be an organization that provides technological infrastructure, platforms, tools, services, and enabling securing and efficient data sharing among all stakeholders. And this is something that we will also ask your opinion about later on. So I think we can move to the next slide to start. Okay, yeah, to start with the question we have prepared. I will give you some general guidelines before starting. Here you can find also the link that I mentioned when we started. It is mendy.com and the code is 21343088, or you can just scan the QR code in order to go to the Mentimeter. In order to give you some time to connect, I would like to give you some guidelines. All responses are anonymous, so we don't know who answered what, but there is a track between the questions, so we can cross-examine results. So based on your first answer, which we will see later, that is in which stakeholder category you are involved, we will track all the answers based on that. Of course, we don't know who answered what, so it's 100% anonymous. And you will see that we tried to have only multiple choice questions, so you will not find any open-end questions that they need more time to elaborate. We will do that in the second stage after this meeting. So for the first round, yes, we can open the Mentimeter. It's possible. Okay, super. Good. So here we have only two basic questions: your stakeholder group and your role in the value chain network. So I know that the letters are not very big. I will also read them for you. The question is, with which of the following key stakeholder categories? I'll show you the groups. So we would like now just to vote in which category of those you are most, you feel that you are included. Please choose only one. I don't think you have the possibility in this question to choose another. So please choose the one that feels that you are more engaged in. We will have 1 minute. So Okay, I'm seeing that voting is closed. Give me a minute to see why that happened. Just keep you open again, presentation. Okay. Now it's working. Good. Okay, we'll wait some seconds because we didn't start. Okay, I think we're good. We can move on to the second question, which is also straightforward. Okay, so the question now is based on what you voted in the first one, in which category do you primarily identify your role or contribution? So if you remember, we said there are customer, partners, suppliers, operators. So what do you think that is most relevant to you? Okay, I think we're all done. I'm happy that some attendees chose operator category. I'm very happy for this. I'm anxious to see the results in the end. So thank you very much. I think that was the only question we had for this session, and we can move on to yeah, let's go on. Okay, so thank you very much for this first introductory round. So the next session is about what is called Common European Agricultural Data Space. I will do my best to give you some insights on this, but you will see that there are some aspects that are not 100% clear and carved in stone yet. So I will present only things that are already published in a publication of European Commission or a law, or to the DSSS glossary and blueprint. Just a heads up, the DSSC is the Data Space Support Center. It was created just to help all the different data spaces, the common data spaces that we are trying to build, and it's a big organization that trying, to consolidate everything in order to provide common rules for everybody. So we are working in parallel now. In some aspects, we are moving faster than the DSSC. So we are trying to incorporate things as they are produced from them. So very quickly, we will start with what is a data space definition. So general, what is considered data space. So it says that it is an infrastructure. This term, to be honest, is a bit debatable, that enables data transactions between different data ecosystem parties based on the governance framework of that data space. Data space should be generic enough to support the implementation of multiple use cases, or let's say usage scenarios. So this is a common terminology about what data space is, but there is also a terminology about what is a common data space, at least in Europe, in European Union, to be more precise. We say that it is interoperable frameworks, it can be one or more, of common standards and practices to share or jointly process data for development of new products and services, scientific research, or civil society initiatives. You can see here that is a bit generic enough. So, of course, common standards and practices must fully align with EU values in order to be European data space. They need to contribute to European economic and social development. But again, you can see here that it's a bit generic. It's not very, precise what we're talking about. But regarding the agriculture data space, we are referring to a secure and trusted data space to allow the farming sector to share and access data, improving economic and environmental performance in the field. So we'll go to the next slide to give you some information about what is called data ecosystem. If you remember, the previous session was from value chain network data ecosystem. So we call it a universe. So if you can see in this big circle, this is everything that is included in the data ecosystem. The data ecosystem itself is a set of autonomous parties engaging in data sharing. So everybody that can be engaged in data sharing is included in this data ecosystem. A party of the data ecosystem is a legal or natural person that is engaged in data sharing inside the ecosystem. The data space initiative is a collaborative project of a consortium, a network of partners, or even an organization that deploy and maintain a data space. The data sharing initiative partner is a party that formally commits to contribute to a particular data space initiative. So if you remember, we say that we analyzed 64 data sharing initiatives. These are included here. The governance body is the party that is accountable for the governance of a particular framework. In this scenario, they don't replace the role of public enforcement authorities, of the commission, of governmental bodies of each country, but is the organization of the party that defines all the governance mechanisms inside the data ecosystem. And the data space member is the party that has committed to this framework of data space and may have one or another role inside it. It can be a DSI partner, it can be whatever inside this ecosystem. So, okay, we say that the data ecosystem parties, I have put this statement in a lot of slides because it's a very big issue, that all the parties need the reassurance that their data is used in ways they can accept, and the data they need from others will have the promised quality. So quality and trust is two of the main values that a data ecosystem, a European data ecosystem, must be sure that have in mind. So in the next slide, I will give you some ideas about the key aspects. So I told you that trust is one. Let's start from the beginning. The first one is the data space value. So we're talking about what is the value generated in one or another use case inside the data space, use case or usage scenarios, whatever is more comfortable for you is the same. So we're talking about different cases of working inside the data space. Interoperability is a very big issue. So we're talking about, first of all, it can be one of three categories. It can be technical, it can be semantic, or organizational interoperability, including legal. And it refers to the ability of different systems to work together with each other and for devices, applications, or products to connect and communicate it in a coordinated way without effort from the users of the system. So it must be automatically. Interoperability is a very critical term for the data spaces because it can also guarantee that participants can trust each other and have sovereignty over their data. So to know that their data are safe, to know that no one will do anything illegal with their data, they have the lawful that they can use their data the way they want. And finally, there is the Federation of Data Spaces. So we're talking about an organization or a network of two or more data spaces that have agreed upon standards of operation in a collective fashion. So most probably we're talking about a governance framework that all the organizations are committed to and have synergies between. These are the four, including the trust key aspects based on the publications that we have already in our heads. Okay, there are also some other issues. You can understand that transparency can be also a key aspect, but these are the main, and these are those that would like your opinion later on. In the next slide, we're going to see the roles of the data space. Okay, again, key roles. Before starting to presenting the roles, I would like to go to this asterisk we have in the end. This is still a consultation process. And why I have this asterisk here? Because when we started this presentation, we have some other key roles here. But from that time to this time, we have already changed. And I'm pretty sure that we are going to have another change very soon. Of course, the essence is the same, but we are talking about the actual terminologies used and the classification. Of course, all the categories are valid, but the classification and the different terminology is something that we have in mind to check and maybe adapt accordingly. So now we have 6 basic categories, and these are the categories that we are going to ask you about. So the first one is the data rights holder. So we're talking about the participant that has the legal right to use, grant access, or share certain data inside the data space. The data space enabler is the member that provides a service, can be technical, can be non-technical, that enables data transactions for all the participants, while not directly participate in that transaction itself. For example, we are talking about identity provisioning or ontology provisioning, if you are aware of these more technical terms. The data provider is the participant that provides data to the data receivers and gives them the right or the duty to access and receive the data. The data receiver is the party that is receiving the data. I think that's very, very clear. Data user is called the participant that has the lawful access and right to use the data, but as the result of a specific data transaction. And the data intermediary is a data space enabler that connects one or more data space members to the data space, enabling them to establish relationships and execute data transactions. I'm pretty sure that you will see that some of them are pretty close. It's not very clear why the data user and the data provider are not the same, or the data rights holder are different. But the essence here is that the Commission and the DSSC tried to make the categories as distinct as possible. So to have more categories in order to have all the participants to be included in that is most relevant to them. Of course, we cannot say that a participant in a data space has only one role. In most of the cases, a participant will have more than one role, but okay, this is something that we're aware of it, and that's okay. A participant can have one or two or three roles inside the space. I think we have another set of questions. There are 3 questions only. Again, 1 minute per question. The idea here is also for what we discussed now to see how you understand your roles inside the data ecosystem and the data spaces. So if we can open the Mentimeter. Okay. Okay, so the question is, while identifying as a data space participant, with which data space role do you primarily identify within a common data space, let's call it, not... Okay, very quick. Okay, for this question, we have asked to put only one answer. I know that you can have more than one roles, but we want to see here what is your primary identification. So use the one that you feel more closely engaged, and that's it. I know that can be more, but let's keep only the one that is more relevant now. Okay, I think we can move on with the next question. So, on a scale of 1 to 5, how would you rate the interoperable aspect of a common data space? So, do you think that is very important, the interoperability of a data space, or do you think that's not so important? Okay, and I think we have the final one. Again, on a scale of 1 to 5, how would you rate the federated aspect of a common data space? Do you think that is important or less important? Super, thank you very much. I think we can continue with the presentation and go to the next session. Okay, so this session is more of an intro of the next one. We want to give some insights about the business model radar, which is the tool we used. Let's go to the next slide, please, George. Super. So what is the radar? It is a conceptual tool that was used as a guiding reference for business model design. You can find it in publications as Service Dominant Business Model Radar or SMDB/R. It is a framework that helps to articulate the individual value proposition of each data space participant as well as the collective value proposition of the data space. So if you're not aware of this tool, I'm pretty sure that you are aware of the business model canvas tool. So this is another tool that is used and is also proposed by the Data Space Support Center to be used in order to design the business models inside the data space. So this is what we used, and this is how we formed all our research so far. So if we go to the next slide, okay, this is the radar, it's the same as previous, this is more clear, so I can present to you the different slices. The process of creating a business model using the radar involves identifying and agreeing on the co-created value in use. So what's in the middle of the circle. Moreover, we have to find all the targeted customer segments, the value of each actor, their roles, assess the cost and benefits, and identify all the high-level activities to realize the active value proposition. So let's see each layer. The first one is framing the value in use. So after the middle, which is the co-created value, we have the actor value propositions, which represents the value of each single actor. The second layer defines the activities that each actor performs in the business for achieving the co-creation of the value. The third layer is the cost benefits. So the financial, monetary usually, and non-financial expenses of those actors. And the final is the actual actor. So we have here, if you can see, we have some categories. It's the broad category that say just actors, but there are some other categories that are more specific, which are the customer, the focal organization, the core partner, then the enriching partner, and all the others can be more generic. So we have for many categories and all the other actors that can be part of a business case of a data space should be included in this radar in order to have a consolidated tool with all the different business aspects. So we don't want to make it very technical here and explain everything on what we did, but we want to give you this layer explanation because we would like to ask you how you see some of these terms and how you see yourself or your organization included in a radar like this. So we have 3 questions based on that, and then we are going to go deeply to the business model of the common data space. So let's see the Mentimeter. Okay, so the question is, what do you believe would be the individual value proposition of each data space participant within a common data space? So this is specifically for you. What do you think is a value proposition for you? Is the enhanced data access, the data-driven innovation, and so on? You can choose more than one answers if needed here, of course. If you can find the most relevant, please choose only one. But if you need to choose another, you can do it. Super. The next question is, how should the costs and benefits be distributed among the data space participants? Again, please think based on your role, because we want to see how each stakeholder is understanding what we're talking. Again, here you can choose more than one answers, but if possible, please stick to one. Okay, I think we're done. Let's see the next one. What do you believe would be the collective value proposition for the common data space as a whole, for the common European agricultural data space as a whole? So the question here is, if you can see what we had in the middle of the circle, if you can have one or more of these options here. Of course, if you have something else in mind, please choose the other. Okay, I think everybody voted. Okay, so we can now move to the next session, which is about the business model perspective of the Common European Agricultural Data Space. Let's go to the next slide. So, based on our initial analysis, and based on, again, as I told you, we tried to present you only options that are widely accepted. So these are the most common business model used in data sharing initiatives that exist now. Of course, considering the potential of the European data economy, and that is just unfolding now, I'm pretty sure that new approaches to data sharing may still emerge. So we have 6 basic business models. The data monetization. In this one, we're talking about companies that make additional revenues from the data they share with other companies. Data can also be monetized through provision of services or technologies. The data marketplaces, that is pretty much the most common. We also have a question if a data marketplace is data space. A data marketplace, to be honest, is the business model of a data space, can be a business model of a data space. So we're talking about intermediaries that bring data suppliers and data users together to exchange data in a secure online platform. But that's it. The revenue from the data transaction is occurring inside the platform, and this is how the revenue is created. But we have in the next slide the revenues, so the revenue models. So I will go later on that. The software as a service, which is also a very common. The data providers here or analytics providers get compensated for their data and services, and the consumers pay a subscription for accessing data and platform. The industrial data platforms is the approach that is used to exchange data among a restricted group of companies usually. Here, it's most often used B2B, so not with natural persons and consumers. The next one is the technical enablers. So business is specialized in enabling data sharing. They have a technical solution, and they are providing this solution that users can use for their own business. And there is the open data policy that is, it's not very common to be honest, but is when you share data in order to foster the development of new products and services of your company. So you want to test something, so you give the data for free in a data space in order to be to validate something or to pilot something. So after the business models, we have the revenue models. I'm pretty sure that some of these terms are very often used and you are aware of them as business model also, but we wanted to distinguish them and see any connections between the revenue models and the business models. So, for example, I'm pretty sure that the majority here thinks that the freemium is a business model, but it's just a revenue model of some of the business models we saw previously. I'm also using these terms as business models, but we tried to make it as official as possible. So we have the 6 most commonly used revenue models for the data sharing initiatives. This is based on our analysis, and later on we have some statistics in order to give you some percentages of what we found. And the free to all is open, everything is shared openly without cost. And this is mostly of research projects or something that is happening through a government. The freemium, which is most probably the most commonly used. So you can have access to limited data or services, but if you want higher quality data or specific services or some metadata or some analytics inside, you have to pay a cost. The licensing, which is you need to have a specific agreement in order to share or purchase data. The sponsorship branded advertisement. So this is, you have free access, but the cost of the data is moved to some sponsors or advertisers. This is not very commonly now. The demand-oriented, so cost of data depends on availability and complexity. And the barter system, which is give some data in order to receive some data. So you pay with your data in order to receive some other data that may be useful for you. Okay, so let's see what we found so far. Okay, this is based on the 64 DSIs that were analyzed in the project and a more specific analysis we did in the 15 of those. The criteria we had was scalability, implementation speed and cost, openness, financial incentives, attractiveness for public entities, and technical complexity. So, as you can see, in terms of business models, the software as a service is the most common inside data sharing initiatives across Europe. The next one is a technical enabler. So we are talking about having just a technology that you can use. And you can see the marketplace is third, and industrial data platforms and so on. As you can see, open data policy, we didn't find anything. As for the revenue models, okay, this is a bit biased, of course, because we try to see data sharing initiatives that they have some, they are business oriented. So that's why we didn't find anything that's free to all. Of course, they exist, but they're commonly based on research projects that after the research project ends, these data sharing initiatives pretty much die, except some very rare occasions. As you can see, the revenue model that is most commonly used, the freemium, with 47%, and then the licensing with 40%. And we also find some barter system data sharing initiatives, which is nice because if you need to share some data in order to get some data, this means that you are also enlarging the data space. Okay, so that was our findings, but would like to share some questions with you to see how you see these different business models and revenue models. Please don't be biased from what we showed. This is just what we found in our segment. Of course, this is not something you can say that this is 100% sure. It's based on a research and analysis we made on the 64 DSIs. Of course, you maybe have some other models that you use or some other models that you feel more comfortable using in the future. So let's go to the Mentimeter. Here we have 7 questions. This is the big one. And then we are closing with a smaller session about collaborative characteristics of business models. So again, here we'll have 1 minute. You can choose more than one answer, of course, but again, if you can keep it to the most relevant, please do. The question is, what factors are more important to you as a data participant in terms of the business models? If you're not sure or if you have anything else in mind, please choose the other. Okay, I think everybody voted. Let's go to the next one. Which of the following business models would be most useful for you within a common data space? A common data space. So from what we presented earlier, if you have a data sharing initiative or you're just a participant and you were thinking of participating in the data space, which of this business model would be the best for you? Again, we want the answers based on your perspective, so feel free to just click whatever you think it's most relevant to you. Okay, thank you very much. Let's see the next one. Which of the following revenue models would be most useful? So as we did in the previous one, but for the revenue. Thank you very much. So the next one is, what do you consider as the biggest advantage of the selective business model, of the business model you choose already? Here you can put more than one but answers, but if you can stick to one again, great. Okay, I assume that we are finished. So the biggest disadvantage, we ask for the advantage, but we'd like also to see what you think as a disadvantage. Again, if you have something else in mind, please choose other. Or if you think that there are no disadvantages in this business model, you can just not choose anything. Okay, so thank you. The next one is, what are what data sharing incentives or rewards do you think would motivate you or your organization to actively participate in a common data space? Here, feel free to add as many answers as you want. Great, thank you. I think that's the final for this session. So, what potential economic, social, and environmental benefits do you foresee as resulting from a common data space? Okay, I assume that we all got it. I think we can move on. Thank you very much. We will close this meeting with the final session, which is about the collaborative characteristics of the business model for the common data space. We would like to present some key characteristics. The concept of collaborative and enabling business models for the common European agriculture data space revolves around creating a framework or ecosystem. So I try not to use the term platform, but okay, this is what was written. In order to facilitate sharing, exchange, and utilization of agricultural data among all the relative stakeholders. So these business models are designed to foster collaboration, innovation, and data-driven decision-making in the agriculture sectors across Europe. So the key characteristics of a collaborative and enabling business model includes, of course, collaboration. The primary goal of these business models is to encourage collaboration among various actors in the agriculture ecosystem. Enabling services. These business models are built on the provision of enabling services that can add value to the data that are shared. Data governance is a very integral part of these business models, providing incentives for participation to the various actors so they can actively participate in the ecosystem. Scalability and sustainability. So to be successful, collaborative and enabling business models must be scalable and sustainable in the long term. And of course, support for innovation. These models encourage innovation within the agricultural sector. How? By promoting data-driven solutions, fostering collaborations between stakeholders, and of course, providing innovative tools for data analysis, models, algorithms, or whatever is crucial for having innovation in the agriculture system, and of course, new approaches in order to address the agricultural challenges that exist. There are 4 types of collaborative business models. There are models for a set of stakeholder roles, for intermediaries, for a set of data products, and for a set of use cases. So you can design business models based on one of those categories. Let's move to the next one to see some key elements of the importance of the collaborative character of business models, at least for what we're talking about, the Common European Agricultural Data Space. So by encouraging collaboration, a business model for the Common European Agricultural Data Space aims to break down data silos, at least initially. This is the first thing that it has to do. Maximize data utilization, facilitate the co-creation of innovative solutions that can further foster data sharing and integration, enhance data quality and diversity, drive innovation and knowledge exchange, scale impact and sustainability, build trust and transparency, and meet diverse needs. We're talking about the stakeholder needs of the agriculture sector. So these elements are very crucial in creating collaborative business models. Next, and this is the final slide before we go and ask for your feedback in just 3 questions and finalize the meeting today. We would like to show to you why we did this meeting and why we did the initial steps that I have already presented in the first or second slide. So the big issue here is that to pave the way of building a common data space in agriculture or in other sectors, we need to reach broad consensus. So we need to facilitate the stakeholder engagement. And again, I'm very happy that we have very high participation today. We need to promote knowledge exchange. So that's why we try to give you some insights on what we're doing. I know that we cannot do super work in 1 hour and a half, but at least to give you the basic points in order to have a better idea of what we're discussing. There is the iterative design and feedback, and that's why we did the previous steps, but we will do also some next steps in the process. For example, we have already another workshop prepared, but it will be physical in Thessaloniki in 4th and 5th of October. We will let you know if something is doable for you. We'll be very happy to have you also here. And of course, to promote transparency, and that's why we're presenting everything that we found, but I'm also saying that nothing is carved in stone. We're still searching, researching, and analyzing data in order to be sure that we have the broad consensus, that we have analyzed correct all the stakeholder needs. Okay, I think I have to stop talking and go to see the last 3 questions. Okay, let's go to the Mentimeter. So the first one is, how do you envision a common data space creating a sustainable ecosystem for collaborative business models? You can add more than 1 answers if you need to. These 3 questions are a bit more generic, and the idea is to see how the stakeholders understand the sustainability aspect of the data space. So they are a bit more vague. Great. The next one is what services a common data space could potentially provide to enhance value creation and stakeholders collaboration. So we have a predefined list. If you can choose some of those services that you think that it would be interesting for you. You can choose more than one, of course. Great. And let's see the last question. We would like to see if for the services you added before, you were willing to pay. Of course, let me remind that this is clear 100% anonymous, so we don't know what everybody answers. But the reason of this question is to see if you think that the added value of the services that you chose before are worthy of paying some money. Okay, so voting is closed. We are done with all the questions we've had. Let's go to the next slide. So that was everything we planned for today. We try to keep it as short as possible. Of course, we would like to have extra time and extra freedom to ask you directly questions and have feedback from everybody. But based on our experience, this is not something that can happen in an online meeting with a lot of participants at least. So the next steps are from us to respond to all the questions made in the Q&A. We'll have a lot, to be honest. I'm very happy for this. So we'll come back to you. If there is your name included, we can respond directly to you. Otherwise, we were thinking of creating an FAQ with all the questions and answers that can be broadly disseminated. And the next step is a questionnaire that we would like to share with you for further feedback. This will give you the possibility to express your opinion in a more precise way, not just through a multiple choice question, but have the freedom to write your thoughts. So we will also have some open-end questions. And of course, we will share with you all the results in order to be aware of what we're doing in the AgriDataSpace project and how we're working on paving the way of creating this common European agricultural space. Again, thank you so much for the participation. I hope that we provided some good insights about what we're doing. Based on what I saw in the results of the questions, we have a lot of work to do to clarify all the results and take some actual information from those. But thank you very much. It was very great. The participation was again very high, was expected. So I really hope that we can continue to interact in the future. We will keep you posted with all the activities that we are planning. And again, thank you very much. Goodbye from my side.
Thank you a lot again, everybody. Hope you have a great evening. And we're gonna keep you informed for all the results that are coming from this questionnaire. And we're gonna send you an extra questionnaire to receive extra feedback. Thank you one more time for your participation in this workshop.
Thank you. Goodbye.